America, North America. Dear Mr. Secretary, it has been 24 years since the Tigrayan People's Liberation Front minority communist regime has served power by gun in Ethiopia to legitimize its control on Ethiopia and following the international community and donors. The regime has coupled together feudal constitution, federal and a democratic state structure, parliament, political party, Ethiopian People's Revolutionary Democratic Front, and other democratic semblance. The country has also been labeled as Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia. All the structure, labels, and institutions are nothing but fakers to hide the true identity of TPLF regime. In reality, it is a communist regime which monopolizes all the resources of the nation, economic activities, trample human rights, political rights, freedom of speech, press, and assembly. Politically, there is no right of venting grievance, demonstrating, gathering, writing, or speaking against the excess of the government is criminalized. The regime designed anti-terrorism law just to muffle any dissenting voice. Tens of thousands of activists, journalists, students, opposition groups have been locked up for decades. There is no separation of power among the executive, political party, legislative, judiciary, security, and the police. The TPLF is above its constitution, laws, rules, and regulations. The TPLF are restrained by any other institution or constitution. All decisions are controlled by TPLF leadership. Non-Tigran appointees have to get approval to execute their functional responsibility. The communist system of control of party members is now replicated in civic life all citizens. The 125 SP network is applied to all Ethiopians to silence any grievance and any dissent voice. It is through this mechanism of control that the TPLF could stay in power by conducting 5 sham elections during the last 24 years and always declaring itself a winner. The Ethiopian economy is controlled by the Endowment Fund for the Rehabilitation of Tigray effort, a conglomerate of multiple companies engaged in agriculture, manufacturing, construction, trade, finance, and social sectors. Effort has monopolized the private sector of Ethiopian economy to the extent never seen anywhere in the African continent. The Ethiopian peoples have never seen in the history of the country this degree of state exploitation, operation, and suppression. But it is impossible to exploit a nation forever with this type of iron fist. The end may be unpleasant. Dear Mr. Secretary, the government atrocide, exploitation, subjection, mass arrest, torture, extrajudicial killing, disappearance are never on Oromia. Disappearance are severe on Oromia and the Oromo people. The regime is holding thousands of Oromo political prisoners in its notorious jails spread all over the country without due legal process. Nowadays, there are more detention centers than schools. The regime displaced millions of Oromo farmers from their land in the name of development land grab. The response for any Oromo grievance is beating, arrest, torture, and genocidal massacre. In May 2014, the government security force massacred 70 students just for demonstrating against the Tigran land grab policy. Thousands wounded and arrested. Towards the end of 2014, 2 Oromo farmers in Salale zone, Oromia state, were brutally murdered and their bodies dragged and put on public display for resisting oppression. None of the perpetrators against the Oromos have been brought to justice until now, despite Oromos' demand from all corners of the world, including the United States. To invite another bloodshed, the TPLF has ordered implementation of the Addis Ababa Master Plan, which was passed due to bloody resistance. The arrest and torture of Oromo have continued. Many of those who survived the torture have remained incarcerated. Ethiopian prison is highly populated by Oromo just for resisting abuse. Ethiopia is an open prison for the Oromo nationals. Thousands are fleeing their country due to lack of security, peace, freedom, and guarantee for life. Young Oromos who fled their country due to Tigrayan-led Ethiopian government brutality have fallen victims of the beheading by ISIS in Libya. Many others have perished in the Mediterranean Sea when smugglers' boats pacified. Oromo refugees are also victims of recent xenophobic killing in South Africa and displacement of refugees by civil war in Yemen. We are protesting to expose this wanton state aggression against the citizen because the regime is an ally of the United States government and supported by the Western donors in general. In particular, the rally is to demand a halt to the killing of Oromo students and others who are peacefully protesting against the so-called Integrated Development Master Plan, whose sole purpose is to illegally expand to the capital city. Addis Ababa Finfinne toward this Oromia state in order to systematically evict Oromo farmers from their ancestral land, as well as disposing them of their properties, identity, culture, language, freedom, way of life, and ultimately pushing Oromia into west and east by carving out the spinal cord Addis Ababa and surrounding districts. No Oromo would expect this evil design which obliterates the integrity of Oromia. It is an exceptional issue for the Oromo nation as a whole. Atrocities against the Oromo people have continued unabated. Any Oromo making demand for justice is beaten, arrested, tortured, convicted without evidence by the TPLF court. During the May 2015 sham election, hundreds of Oromo youth and university students were beaten, arrested, tortured. Many were shot dead for opposing election fraud. Many are still languishing in prison. Many universities were closed due to the election crisis. Ethiopia's election should be a wake-up call for the international community. The blatant disregard for internationally recognized standards for free and fair elections just might convince Ethiopia's largest donors that it is time to rethink their relationship with an increasingly authoritarian government. It is so sad that such heinous crimes were happening with the knowledge of donors and ally government. This is a government that your country is giving financial and economic aid to and has intelligence and military cooperation with. As long as democratic governance and respect for human rights are pushed aside by donors in favor of economic development and security cooperation, Ethiopia's long-term stability is at serious risk. We, the Oromo Americans, have been protesting in front of the U.S. State Department